Hi, Mustafa.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
Excellent. You can tell us where we're going today, but also tell us a little bit about yourself, what university you are representing, and are you a freshman, sophomore, junior, senior? Just tell us all about you. Take it away.
hmm Well, my name is Mustafa. I represent Howard University. I'm a senior right now, but I studied abroad once during my sophomore year and once during my junior year. And both times I went to Limerick, Ireland, so to the University of Limerick. My major is biology, and University of Limerick is amazing for going there as a STEM major.
Excellent. Yeah, there's a common misconception in the study abroad bubble that, pre-med majors, bio majors, chem majors, science, anything in the STEM industry, like can't study abroad. And I'm very excited to crack that open with you today, Mustafa.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you're a senior, so this
Yeah,
is you're in the final countdown right
yeah,
now.
I'm in my last semester.
Excited, nervous?
I'm nervous about the real world, I guess.
Yeah, maybe you'll land back in Ireland. Who knows?
Maybe. I would like.
Very cool. So you studied abroad twice in
I,
Limerick. Very
yeah.
cool. So did you do a fall, a spring, a summer, a J term?
I did a spring at first, and then I came back for the summer to take a class, and then went back for fall because that was the last semester I can study abroad, and
Okay,
I didn't mind doing it in Ireland again.
excellent.
And it
So
had so
what is, go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say that it had so many courses to choose from that I would never go fall behind. I took more credits than I would be taking in my home university.
Excellent. Good. We are going to talk about credit count. That's awesome. So what is it do you think that keeps drawing you back to Limerick?
I think it's the environment there. It's well, first of all, the campus is very diverse,
Hmm.
and secondly, just the location. It's in a very remote area, but it's also a city, so that's the kind of place I like to live in.
Yeah.
Um, and everything about it, there were so many clubs, and everyone was just so friendly. So I don't mind going back there.
Yeah, obviously, because you went back twice. Very cool. We love hearing that, that you couldn't get enough of one location or just the idea of study abroad or being away from your home university. So you did a repeat. Very
Yeah,
cool. We love hearing that. Awesome. So um you kind of get this question when you return home, like your top three favorite things or things that you miss about that particular location of study or things that, you won't find at your home university. Can you just tell me a little bit about your top three favorite things that you missed when you repatriated back to the US?
I think the biggest thing I missed was the people because I mean I can't get those people back, and it was just for 4 months, but we created such a bond that the location is kind of connected to the people. So that's
Yeah.
the first thing.
Hmm.
The second thing is that the campus was very lively and good for students of all ages. Like I have friends who are way older and grad students because it's so combined and brings everyone together.
Hmm.
Um, the third thing, I th- I don't know which one to choose. Uh, it's probably the trips we would used to go to.
Okay.
That was amazing because every weekend the school would arrange trips, and the trips would be way cheaper than it would be if we arranged it by ourselves. So that's why the location was really good for me because the school was amazing. One last thing is the weather.
Yeah, you can do four. I have no problem with that.
I love the weather in Ireland. It was
Yeah.
a lot of people say it's always gloomy, but I feel like there's everything like there's all kind of seasons in the same day. I've seen rain, snow, and the sun in the same day as well. So I wouldn't complain about the weather at all. It's amazing.
Right. And you said you did a summer term as well as a full term semester, correct?
I know I did a fall in the spring.
A fall and a spring. Okay, so you saw, an entire year
Yeah,
worth of weather. And did
yeah.
you feel like it was a little bit different fall versus spring or kind of similar to each other?
Bit colder, but
Okay.
it wasn't that different. Ireland's temperature is kind of like the same throughout the year. It goes up a bit during the summer and a bit during the winter, but it doesn't really vary.
Okay, cool. And you said Limerick. If you can just set that scene for us, because many of us, including myself, have not been to Limerick. So you
Yeah.
said it is a little bit of a city, correct? So you
Yes.
have a little bit of I don't want to say metropolis. It's probably not the size of, New York or something of that nature. But can you tell us a little bit more about what is Limerick like? What's the culture?
Yeah. So Limerick is one of the biggest cities in Ireland, but
Mhm.
Ireland being big as it is, apart from Dublin, even Dublin is very scenic, but apart from Dublin, all other cities, even though they're cities, there's like mountains and rivers all around it, but it just has the convenience of living in a city. Like you can go and get food at 1 a.m. if you want. And like, there's convenience. My campus itself had 11 cafes, and I'm a big coffee person. So I could like hop around, like it's not even a pub crawl, it's like a cafe crawl at this point. But that's why Limerick is amazing.
Yeah, excellent. Is it a big on coffee culture?
I They don't have their like separate coffees, the same coffees as here, but it's good. It's really good.
Yeah, excellent. That's one of the things we keep unpacking with all these alumni ambassador interviews and our resident director interviews is what countries are like surrounded by this idea of like cafe coffee culture. You know, it's very different than that of the US. It's their kind of their socializing time.
Yeah.
People work in these remote environments, so it's pretty cool to just again compare and contrast. Again, things maybe that you miss about
Oh,
Ireland.
definitely I miss cafes because there's so many like local cafes within my area. So even if I don't want to go to like a Starbucks or a Costco, which is another chain, I could go to the local ones because it's so much like cozier, and then the same people goes there because it's such a small country. You definitely meet the same person in different areas. So that's why I love being in cafes. I made friends in cafes just by studying, sitting on the same table. So that's like amazing. I can do that here. I have one cafe on my campus here. So
Right. And you might see a lot of the same people, but it might be different. I like that. So let's get into that. So friendships, right? You probably have people that you live in close quarters with that you'll befriend, people in your classes, people from AIFS, as well as other study abroad providers, maybe international students, because that university in Limerick does cater to all different, you know, walks of life. But can you tell us, you've definitely made a lot of friends. I can tell already, from everything that you've accomplished in that short amount of time in Ireland. So tell us a little bit about what those friendships look like. What do they look like now that you've repatriated? How do you stay in touch with these people? All of the circle.
I think a big part of me going to Ireland was finding similar people in adapted people, which I definitely did. So for the first semester, I lived with all international students and there were less Americans. The second semester, I lived with 5 Americans and 3 Europeans. So it was different both semesters. But the thing is, in both houses, I made the greatest friends. Like I had the best housemates both semesters. And then apart from that, I made one of my closest friends in my classes just by sitting beside each other. And it's an auditorium class, so that's very unlikely. At least here, I've never had that. So like Irish people are really friendly, so it was easier to talk to them and become friends. Apart from that, the international society brought all the international people together with the trips and everything. So when we went on the weekend trips or even a day trip, we would just be traveling together, which is a big bond formation, right? Apart from that, on Fridays, there was an international party for international students. So that was all the internationals in the same pub on campus, which was another bonding moment. So with everything, I felt like it was a big society of people. Like everyone knew everyone somehow by the end of the semester, at least the international students, because the Irish community is so big. So yeah, I made such great friends from all over the world. It's like a big global network. It's never hard to keep contact with them because we've gotten so close and we've gone through so much in such little time that we have formed that bond that you usually form with childhood friends. And you don't need to communicate every day to have that connection. Like if someone calls me after a month, I know they were busy and called me, and there's a time zone difference and everything. So yeah, I really did make great friends. Like I'm so happy that I went.
Excellent. Yeah, I love that. And it's kind of like that concept of you can pick up where you left off. You know, what you said, you don't have to speak to these people every day. We have Instagram, we have WhatsApp, we have all these social media platforms. And if there's one silver lining, and I don't know if this is a silver lining necessarily, but throughout this pandemic, right, screen time is up. So you have lots of time to communicate, FaceTime with your friends, communicate with people that you've studied abroad with, share your experience in the US versus what they might be experiencing in their home country. And that's something to bond on too. Again, wish this pandemic never existed, but if we're finding our silver linings, it's that we can all somewhat relate to what's going on globally. So very cool. And as I always tell students, you know, stay in touch with those people, because especially if they're not from the US, you will have so many cool places to travel in the
Yeah.
future. So many great, like, locally driven experiences with these people in their own home countries. So study abroad is not just about, you know, the 3-4 months to a year that you spend in a place, but the connections that you make, the friendships you build, and where they, you know, tread onto thereafter. So stay in touch. Yes, for sure. Very cool. We kind of skipped over this. So we talked about people you're friends with living in close quarters, roommates, people in classes, what have you. Can you tell us a little bit about your housing, and what options the university provides? Just
Yeah.
kind of tell us a little bit about what your living situation was like.
Yeah. So the university itself provides a lot of kind of housing. There's the on-campus housing is huge. It's spread out, so it's in different locations. So it's within campus, but the campus is so big. So one would be by the river, one would be by the forest, one would be by the main road. But the on-campus housings are amazing, depending on how much you like to spend. And then you can choose the amount of roommates you want. Like I had 7 roommates, so it was a people of 8, house of 8 people. And then there's like 4, there's single rooms as well. So on-campus housing is amazing, and AIFS provides us with on-campus housing. Apart from that, I have had friends who have lived outside in like nearby apartments, which is also not that far from campus, and there's a bus that's going in and out. And then there's host stay. So I had like 4 or 5 friends living with hosts, and they were in the European Erasmus program. There was also study abroad people who lived with host people. So you will definitely has these 3 kind of arrangements for students there.
For sure. Did you find living with that many people, were there pros versus cons? Would you recommend having that many roommates?
The first semester I was like, I don't want to live with this many roommates. It would be a problem with the bathroom, but blah blah blah. But the second semester, we were all so close. Like first semester, I had close friends within the house, but second semester, all 8 of us were close, and all 8 of us had other friends. So that became a whole big community. We knew the whole UL International Society. So like, I don't think I would change that. Like I prefer, like our house was the best house. Everyone would say that, even though there were 5, because there's 8 people and there's shower issues. At the end of the day, the network the network we built because of those 8 people is amazing, because everyone's from different places.
Right. When you said I have the best house, I heard like I had Harry Potter flashbacks. You know, we're the best house. We have the most points. Very cool.
That's classy 7.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. And you just, again, you're your own little group. You always have someone to do activities with, whether it's, you know, all 8 of you or just a few of you. You always have somebody to kind of participate in those things with you. Very cool. You did mention some of the excursions that you went on through AIFS. So can you tell us a little bit about what those excursions were? Did you have a favorite? Was there one that stood out to you more than the others? One that you would like want to repeat, if not all of them? Just tell us a little bit about those travels.
So AIFS, there's 3 kinds of excursions. There's like day trips and weekend trips, and there's also like cultural excursions, which would be like taking us to like dance and music stuff. I've never been to that. That's like the last dinner one, and I didn't want to miss the other things that's going on in the last days. So I can't speak about that, but the weekend trips are amazing because it's not all together, and you have the time to spend in a location, and they take you to the best locations for the weekend trips. So I went to Aran Islands, which is like this small island in Ireland, combined of 3 islands together, and I also went to Belfast, which is in Northern Ireland. So both of those weekend trips were amazing because you had the time to live with the AIFS people that you might not know that good. And apart from that, it's only traveling with the AIFS people. So that's a very different experience than the rest of the semester, because you're living with the AIFS American people and traveling with them. And they cover lunch and breakfast. They don't cover dinner. So, and everything else, like the transportation, is covered by AIFS through the tuition fee. So that's amazing. I think the weekend trips was amazing.
Very cool. Yeah, no, that's perfect. And again, it kind of just highlights that experience of like, you have these, study abroad is a bubble to begin with. We always say the study abroad bubble, right? People that understand what you've been through and are going through and
Yeah,
experienced when you return. But then like within your semester, it's like you had the people you lived with, you had
yeah,
people you from your international organizations, you had just the AIFS excursion friends. So you have all these little cool bubbles under the dome, very cool. Would you say, so in terms of like the learning aspects of those excursions, right? Because they're always educational to some degree.
yeah.
Very fun, but also very educational. That's the whole point of the program. Are there any like specific cool history lessons that you learned about or anything of that nature throughout those excursions?
Um, yeah, I think during the day trips, when we went on cave excursions and like museums and stuff, we learned a lot. Well, my favorite one was the Titanic Museum in Belfast because I've never watched Titanic, and just knowing the whole history of Titanic, it was amazing. And the museum itself is the best museum I've been to, so I'd recommend everyone to go there. And there's two in Ireland. There's one in Northern Ireland. There's one in Cork. So yeah, I think that was the best cultural experience to know like where Titanic started and how everything happened, what was the conversations going on. It's very detailed.
Very
And
cool.
also, like
Did
the experience
you,
on the ship.
very cool. Did you watch the movie thereafter to better understand, or still not to this day?
I will watch it soon.
It's okay. We're not shaming you for it. We're just pure curiosity. Very
As,
cool. Yeah, that's a big historical point in Irish history. So very
yeah.
awesome. Were there any other little lessons you learned throughout those excursions or anything of that nature?
So some of the lessons I learned during the day trips was like the Viking history
Hmm.
and the the stereotype that Irish are redheads and why it's not true. So those kind of things. I can explain a bit more about that because
Yes,
it's
please.
yeah. So according to the people in the museum, they said that uh, Irish are usually like black hair and brown eyes, which is not what we see Irish people being. It's
Yeah.
because of when the Vikings came, they were the main gingerheads that brought in the genes. That was the story they told us. So
Yeah, it's the Scandinavian culture. Very cool. Yeah, you wouldn't. I think I'm always under the misconception that like Irish people are gonna have red hair and fair
uh,
skin, but no, that's not okay. That's not the case. Very cool. Things that we will have to Google in the future and research because again, these are fun facts you only learn or mostly learn on your programs, which is
yeah.
really awesome. Very cool. Did you do any? You were there for a year, so I imagine you had some, if not many, weekend travels that you conducted on your own account. So what were those weekend travels like? Did you go by yourself? Did you solo travel? Did you go with a group? Where did you go? What did you do? Take us on the map, please. Take us out of our rooms.
Yeah, my traveling experience in Ireland was the best. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely done solo traveling after I become accustomed to traveling in groups. I've traveled outside Ireland as well, so within countries solo and with the friends I've made within Ireland. And then there was also like we arranged our hostel and then lived there, and it was a weekend or a day. I think the best one, I don't know if I can say it's the best one. There's so many good ones. There's one we did for the St. Patrick's one, which was amazing because we lived in a house which was basically a castle. It was huge. There were like 8 rooms, and like I can know what's going on the other side. There was a massage chair. So the house was amazing, and it was in a very remote place. That weekend trip was my favorite because first of all, it was St. Patrick's, so we got to see the whole culture. Uh, the second thing was the house. The third thing was the house was in such a remote area and it was up the hill. So at night we slept outside. We brought trash bags and put it on the grass, and then we wrapped ourselves with blankets because it was almost like raining. And then we rolled in the hill, and it was the best experience like that trip. And the second trip, which was like at the very end of the semester, which was to the highest cliff in
Mm-hmm.
Europe, which is in Ireland. It's called Sea League. So no one takes you there because the roads are not good. So we had to arrange it ourselves, and it is risky. Uh, our cars like light blew up because there was an orange burning that day, but we still decided to go on the hike. And it was the best view I've ever seen in my life. And it's very underrated in Ireland because everyone goes to see Cliffs of Moher, but no one goes to see this cliffs because it's the northernmost tip of Ireland. So that was another really good trip. And the third one was when Shawn Mendes came to Ireland. So we went for a concert in Dublin. So yeah.
Very cool. Did you find a lot of Americans at that concert, or was it more so Irish people?
I was with my friends, so I don't know what people were there, but I'm
Right.
pretty sure there were more Irish people than Americans. Yeah.
That's cool. Our music widespreads all the way to Ireland, so very, very cool. Did you find that that hike you went on, the 𝗟𝗘𝗧, is that what you said? 𝗟𝗘𝗧?
Steve League.
𝗟𝗘𝗧. Was that pretty touristy, or were you guys like the only ones
No,
there?
there were like three other Irish people. There was
Yeah.
no.
So it's
And
one of those hidden gems.
yes, it's
Yeah.
definitely one of those hidden gems. And when we like, it was so cold because there's an orange warning, so there's storms, and we can really walk straight. Like it was pushing us left and right, and there's nothing to. It's not a touristy area, so it's not that developed either.
Right.
We found one pub. We took like materials from them to tape the light in the car, and then they made a fire for us to like warm us, heat us up. They're so friendly and warm to us, like
Right.
because there was only one pub in that area while driving back. So yeah, that was an amazing. That was my last trip in Ireland.
Very cool. Would you say, I've heard you say it a few times, like the locals are very friendly, very welcoming, very accepting. Would you say that they are more Irish culture as a whole? Are they more a collective society where they kind of like look out for people, even people they don't know? Or is it that more of like a US culture where it's like every man for themselves? Like we're in a little bit of a rat race. But
Yeah.
what's that culture kind of like?
No, Ireland really taught me, like, not taught me, but reminded me to be more of a chill person because everyone is so chilled, and it's a whole community because like people who go to school together, and then it's a small country, they go back home every weekend. Like it's not a thing here. So in like how people go back here for Thanksgiving or Christmas from
Mhm.
school farms, they go back every weekend. The campus is empty. There's only international students on campus. There's no Irish students. So that was a big thing. Like we were all shocked, like you're going back home every weekend. Like why are you doing that? It's definitely not individualistic. It's more of a community perspective because like they form their friendships when they are in school, and a lot of them come to university together because, well, it's a small country again. So and even if they don't come to university together, and they go back home every weekend, so they are meeting those people again, and they're very relaxed. Like if you go on in like a small town in a Saturday, nothing's gonna open before 12 or 1, and everything's gonna close before 4 or 5.
Okay.
So that's like we would go somewhere and we'd not even have a bathroom to use because everything is closed. So I definitely say that people are very friendly, and it like if you go to a pub, people might even buy you a drink. Like not even like um, in a friendly way. They would buy you a friendly way. It's a big community. I've definitely been to pub alone and never felt alone.
That's amazing. Yeah. And like it's this family unit like idea that it's maybe stronger because they're spending more time not, with consumerism, with shops being open like at regular weekend hours, but like families spending time together, communities spending time together. That's very cool. And that's awesome. You can just go into a pub and just like sit down with a stranger and just make a friend that way too. Do you feel like it's because they know you're not Irish, because like you're a study abroad student, or do you feel like that's just person to person in Ireland, whether you're a local, whether you're, an expat, what have you?
So I think the people that goes to a pub knows each other because they've been going there probably for a very long time. So when they see a stranger, and I am very obvious in Ireland, obviously, because most of the people in Ireland are white, and if I go into a pub, they would definitely notice me. But they were very friendly to me, and I think I don't know if it's going off of the question, but the best experience in a pub was in Iron Islands, which was through a AIFS weekend trip. Everyone went to sleep because it was raining, and Americans don't really like the rain. So there was like a lottery thing going on in a pub near where we stayed, and it's a very small island, so there's only two pubs. So I walked there with one of my friends from this school, And because I took an Irish dancing class before, and there was a huge party in the pub, and they started doing those dance forms that I already know, and they just took me in, like they literally pulled me in.
Pulled you on stage, whether you
Yeah,
were ready or not. Very
yeah,
cool.
it's a group dance, so it's like
Mhm.
has to coordinate together. So there was like 20 people dancing together step by step. You know, like how Irish dancing goes.
Yes.
So that was the best experience in a pub because I was trying to leave the pub because it was so crowded, and they're like, "No, don't leave without a Guinness." Like this old man literally pulled me in and was like, "Buy a Guinness." I'm like, okay, I have to stay. And then another guy was the one who pulled me inside because there was not a lot of young people there.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was
Very cool. Yeah, and things that like would not happen to you in your home country. Like I've never walked into a place and just everyone wants to gather around you and know your story, include you in on the dancing. The word I keep hearing as you're speaking about your experience, it just seems very inclusive to everybody.
It is very
Ireland is just the land of inclusivity, so we love that. Very cool. So, even though it's predominantly, well, you have Gaelic as the language. Actually, I think that was one of the questions that was asked.
that's that.
Did you learn any Irish Gaelic? Was it hard to navigate if somebody wasn't speaking English? Like what was that language
So
barrier like?
in with the misconception that English is their second language, which is not
Mhm.
true. English is their first language. So
Okay.
they've been losing their language for a while, which is historically like the British trying to take it away from them.
Mhm.
There's only one like small town that completely speaks Gaelic, and most Irish people do not speak Gaelic, at least the young ones. So I never had an issue. But there were Gaelic classes, Gaelic clubs, and Gaelic training for people. Not most of my friends, a lot of my friends took Gaelic classes to learn Gaelic. I wasn't interested in learning a different language. I went to Ireland because they speak English. So, but I didn't know that English was their first language. I was very shocked when I first went.
Did you pick up any Gaelic term that you would hear regularly, like thank you or please or anything?
I
Or
definitely
use that little that
remember right
really
now.
knew it?
I don't remember right now. I
That's
remember
okay.
the English jargons they use. It's
Mhm.
like, there's a lot of things in English that are different from us. Um, like the sidewalk is called footpath. Then like like pre-gaming is called prinking. Um, so there's a lot of things that's not coming to my head right.
Prinking, pre-drink. It's like a
Yeah, it's like
metaphor.
prink. Yeah,
Okay.
they call it prinking,
That's
and
funny.
there's a lot of things like the words that are different, which was not hard for me because I'm not
Mhm.
from America, so I had both of those training.
Yeah.
Um, so, but it was very interesting to see. What did you just call it? Like the Americans will be like, "What did you just call it?" As like a footpath, and they're like, "No, it's a sidewalk." It's like we call it a footpath. So there were many words like that.
Very cool. At least it's in English, so you can kind of put the meaning together behind the words that are being
Yeah.
merged or used differently.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. So when you arrived to Ireland, was there this moment of like, okay, I'm not in America anymore? Like what that culture shock moment was for you that you remember? Maybe you didn't have one. Some people don't.
I didn't have a culture shock. I know for sure.
Amazing.
But I'm just trying to remember how I felt. Like I went from Bangladesh to Ireland. I didn't go from here.
Mhm.
I just remember the air being really clean and very green. So I was like, I'm in my element right now.
Literally a breath of fresh air when you arrive. Very, very cool. Yeah, not a lot of smog in Ireland, which is a really nice change of pace. When you repatriated back to the States, did you have reverse culture shock?
I did, especially the second time I came back. Because the first time I came back, I had a feeling that I'm going to study abroad again, if not in Ireland, in New Zealand or somewhere. So I was just like waiting for that day. But the second time I came back, I felt so out of place. I was trying to not think about it and just study in my room because I don't know, like everyone in the classes, not in a bad way, but like in the classes, people don't talk to each other.
Mhm.
In Ireland, everyone talks to each other. The teachers have to like stop them from talking, even during exams. So that was one thing, which was not a shock. It was just like, oh, can someone? It's like not a friendly environment, I guess. And then my roommates, I had two roommates when I came back, and they never spoke. Like they would not even say, "How are you?" And they were not mean or anything. It's just like a lot of the times the roommate culture here is like that. Like you don't have to necessarily interact. A lot of roommates don't want to be friends.
Right.
So a lot of those things were shocks, and just the whole culture is very different. It's so high paced here. It's not that high paced in Ireland.
I like that. Yeah, and it's, that's why study abroad is so important and cultural exchange cannot go away, because all of these things that you're saying, like the just from the pub culture, roommate culture, people that you sit next to in your class, your colleagues, there's this air of like, again, collective society that you probably bring home and adopt in your own personal practice with people, your own social interactions. And we want to see more of that, right? That you're pulling all these different cultures that you're learning about, all of the students, all of the alumni ambassadors, everybody that goes abroad. You bring that back with you, and hopefully we can like move the wheel on like what we experience here in America and become, friendlier people.
Yeah, I definitely did bring that back. Like just talking to strangers.
Yeah.
It's way easier for me, and it wasn't beforehand. Although I wanted to, like I was never like I don't want to. I just was scared to, and now I'm not, because I've realized that a lot of the times it's not about me; it's about themselves if they don't want to interact. And I think that's an important thing that everyone should understand. That if you go and talk to someone and they're not friendly, it's probably not your fault.
Right. It's an introvert thing. We're told as like young children, like don't talk to strangers. And then we, grow up and we travel a little bit, and it's like, no, actually talk to everybody that you possibly can, because there's always something you can learn or take away from your encounter. But also like you come home and then you're more outwardly, like you're extroverted a little bit more, but you think of things like, when you have to give a speech in class, maybe you're not as timid to do so. Like if you have to approach somebody that is different than you, or you normally wouldn't approach or have to work with, a colleague, a classmate, what have you, you're a little bit more prepared to do that because you've interacted with all these different types of walks of life. Again, guys, just more proof that study abroad is an experience that opens you in, present and future. Very cool. So I think we pretty much covered, we skipped classes. I know you said you're a biology major, and that is, again, the common misconception is, can bio majors, can chem majors, people in STEM, can we study abroad? Are there opportunities? And not just summer or J term, but an actual full term program where you are not going to be behind on your track to graduation. So can you tell us about the classes you took, bio classes, and any electives, or what classes stand out to you, favorite classes, difficult classes, the whole list?
So I think the first thing I want to say is the STEM thing, because one of I'm targeting is a STEM group. I have taken a lot of my science classes in Ireland. So I took physics 1, I took physics 2, I took organic 1, organic 2, organic lab, microbiology. That's 6 classes, 6 science classes that I took there, which is like 24 credits of science classes that I took in Ireland. So that was definitely one important part of me going there, because I know I would be on track of graduation, and people are always scared that they cannot do that. I did it. Apart from that, my hardest class was cinema, because I ended up in a 4th year class and I've never studied cinema, so that was definitely my hardest class. Nice. My favorite 2 classes, one was Irish music and dance, and the second one was practicum course, which is called Limerick Inside Out. It's arranged by the school. Okay. First one was favorite because I got to learn the dancing, as I said, and then I also got to present it in front of the whole people, because that was our finals, to present it in front of a whole audience, and we did great, so that was amazing. The whole class is divided into sections, so there's dance, there's music, there's flute, and I think there was guitar, and there's fiddle. Of course, there's fiddle. So there was like 5 or 6 sections of different instruments and dancing, and then everyone presented everything at the end of the semester. That was my favorite, definitely my favorite class. I learned the most. I learned so many dance forms. The second one was Limerick Inside Out, which was a practicum, and that was a rough class, because it wasn't the best arranged, because it is kind of like experimental class. We worked with refugees, and then I had a team of 10, and there were like 4 or 5 teams. My team specifically worked with teaching English to refugees, the people who come to Ireland and they don't know English. So we made a pamphlet, and we also met the refugees once or twice to socially interact with them and help them with their English. So that was one group, but there were like 4 other groups as well working with refugees. One worked with domestic abuse, which was, I heard that was not the best team to be in because, I mean, it's rough and they also didn't get to meet anyone because the refugees didn't want to open up.
Yeah. It's emotionally heavy. Yeah.
Yeah, emotionally heavy. Yeah. And I don't remember the other ones. I think there was one which was like it was an IT project, so they mapped out Limerick for the refugees in Limerick so that they can navigate through Limerick. So it was like directed for them. So yeah, there were like 5 different groups working with refugees. These 2 classes were definitely my favorite for 2 different reasons completely.
Yeah. Where can you just give us a little bit of insight? Because, probably a lot of people don't know that, like, Ireland is a refugee safe haven, right? So lots of refugees come into Ireland. Where are these refugees from? So what languages are they learning for, like, their primary language, and you're teaching them English? So where are these refugees coming from?
Yeah, I think they showed us a graph of I think Ireland is the third, or like they're taking a lot of immigrants. Norway and Germany obviously are way higher, but they're trying to get in as more refugees as they can. I think they showed us a graph with Syrian refugees being the most, but I worked with Albanian refugees, uh, which was different for us because we never expected Albanian refugees. We don't even know what's going on in Albania. So
Right.
that was like, everyone was like looking at each other like, what is wrong with Albania? Why did they leave? And then they were talking like, they don't speak English that well. So they basically said that like there's threats of like their lives and like just fights going on, but it's not like Syria, obviously, but it's bad that they had to leave. One of the refugees that I was talking to, she was a doctor, nurse. So she was highly educated, but she came to Ireland, doesn't have a job because she doesn't speak English. So she was trying really hard to learn English. And they were with their kids as well. Um, they're trying more and more to make it easier for them because Ireland's prime minister is immigrant. So he really focuses on those parts.
Love that. Very cool. Did you find, like, were there particular phrases in English that you would, focus on to kind of start with these refugees, or is it more like, this is a pencil, like repetition between you guys? Like, what was the, I guess, science behind that, if that makes sense?
That was definitely a struggle, like, because none of us, well, except for one of us, none of us had experience teaching English, especially to people who are adults but like doesn't know English. So we're like, we don't know how to progress. So what we did was, they have volunteer works where they earn because they have a sign from the government or something. We help them with the stuff in their shop. So like that's how we started. So I worked with 2 or 3. The guy wasn't that eager to learn, but the woman who's the nurse, she worked in a shop and she wanted to know the stuff in the shop, like what's a hat and what's a cap, what's a beanie, and like all the differences on the English words. So that's how we started, and we drew it out, and they said, yeah, like she drew it out and we named it, and then she wrote the Albanian word under it so she understands which one is what. But because it's so hard to keep the refugees coming because they have a hard life, obviously. And even though we went there and stayed there every week for a couple hours or an hour, they wouldn't show up most of the times. Even if like we would see them, but they would be just like, oh, I'm busy. And they also have kids, so it is hard for them. So we decided to make it a pamphlet instead of a teaching hour. So we made a book pamphlet of like instructions and everything. So it was similar to the IT project, but it was in a pamphlet form to teach English. And it was there's like a teaching English book by the Australian government, and we used that as a source for making that based on Limerick English.
Excellent. Yeah, and I think the thing that's notable about all of this is they will have those resources from here on out to reflect back on, to use as a resource as they continue to learn. So it's not just dialogue at this point. You're giving them tools that they can use as this treads on. Very cool. Excellent work. We love the volunteerism abroad because, again, it just exposes you guys to different communities, different marginalized communities, communities that are immigrant communities. I mean, all sorts of things that, again, you might not be exposed to on this side, but hopefully you're adopting these practices of, you know, helping communities and serving them in that way. So good on you, Mustafa. Excellent. This is my favorite question. So we've talked so much about, you know, everything that you've accomplished during your time abroad, especially after, you know, the longevity of a year abroad in the same country, which is really, really cool. But in talking in growth, you know, in terms of growth, academic, professional, personal, what are those changes that you see within yourself, and how do you see those playing on in your career from here on out?
In my career,
Mm-hmm.
I grew a lot in Ireland, like in every aspect of life. Personally, I became more confident and extroverted, which, like, people call me an extrovert now, and I've grown up being called an introvert. I call myself an introvert, so, which is shocking because I do talk to a lot of strangers now, which is, people just look at me like, what are you doing? Because that they didn't see that. So that was a huge growth, which also helped me with the speeches, because I'm very nervous in public speaking. Like, this would be a lot more nervous than I am today. So definitely that was like, and just my whole personality, like me being confident with myself, which is very important for any person, and self-love, and all of that is definitely a part of study abroad. In my career field, I decided my career field because of my study abroad. So when I was in Ireland, I lived with people that are so focused on the climate crisis, like Germans and Swedish people, all the Scandinavians. They're way ahead in the battle to fight it. And Ireland itself, the campus, like the way they advocate for decreasing carbon footprint, like you bringing your own cup to a cafe for drinking and using glasses instead of like those the ones that they give us in Starbucks, the paper ones. So all of those things together. I'm a biology major, but I always wanted to do research, but I never knew what kind of research I wanted to do, and this helped me decide my career of doing research in environmental sustainability. So personally and academically, Ireland was a whole deciding factor for my life. It's huge for me. I would
Excellent.
this.
I have nothing to add. That's excellent. It just, again, it changes the self, but also it gives you direction on, like, what's my purpose? How do I want to fulfill it? And what are the next steps? Awesome. Thumbs up. Very cool. You guys get me like emotional when you start talking about
Yeah,
all of the
but it
things
was
you're gonna do in the future.
did you study abroad?
Be professional. Yeah, exactly. And then this kind of falls into the whole, you know, you talk to students on the regular, strangers, you're more comfortable in a public speaking environment. But now you're an alumni ambassador. So you're doing that on the regular with students that you maybe have never met before, students that maybe have reservations about studying abroad. So is there some kind of phrase that you know, keep in your back pocket to kind of, you know, explain to them, and maybe it is, you know, your own personal experience that you're sharing with them, to help them feel comfortable in making that decision in pursuit of study abroad?
I definitely use my own personal experience. I don't have like a fixed phrase to explain it to them.
Mm-hmm.
I think the people around me when I got back, and people I asked to study abroad when I was going, they definitely regret it. Like they all of them are like, I wish I studied abroad, and that's because they saw my I saw my documentation and how I speak about my experience. Like I never speak about anything else like that. So that my friends at least definitely see it in my life, and they can see what I went through. So that's how I influence them, like just by my documentation of my own experience to them. Um, if I'm talking to someone I don't know, I definitely would tell them to go ahead and do it, because there's nothing to regret. I go to a black school, so a lot of the times one of the reasons that it comes down to is because they're scared of going abroad, especially in Europe or European countries or even Asian countries, right? And I went there as a person of color. I was definitely the only Bangladeshi that was there. And I'm straight from Bangladesh as well, and I did not face any problems. There were definitely people who are prejudiced, but it's outnumbered by the people who would support you, and that's definitely something I try to tell them, and because that's one important thing that's in the back of their mind, even if they're not saying it directly to me. So yeah, those are two things I would definitely say to the people I interact with. I think it will vary with the people I interact with, like who would I say what to.
Excellent. And you're such a good resource for that, because we have this whole department, if you will, diversity inclusive initiatives through the Alumni Ambassador program. So hearing these testaments of students that, you know, again, you're going to a predominantly white country. Yes, you are going to stand out, but you know, how do you unpack that experience for others? How do you take away all of the positives that you experienced over there, versus that one maybe prejudiced person that you ran into? You don't want to let that one person or one little thing ruin the whole experience, but we definitely always want to use that as awareness for students that are going to pursue this, right? It's always good to kind of have as much information as possible, and again, to hear your experience and know it was a positive one despite that one little thing. It's,
Yeah.
you know, it's who you are, and we adore all of our alumni ambassadors for it. So excellent, Mustafa, great stuff. Let me see if we had any other questions. I think I grabbed them. We just had that one. Let's see. It's hard because we're about to enter a holiday season. We are entering the holiday season, so people come back and they watch these Instagram lives thereafter. So any questions that you guys have for Mustafa now or later or next week, just email them to us and we will get them to him. He is obviously an Ireland guru. He knows his stuff. He's been there for both the fall and spring semester. So we're going to do a speed round before I let you go. I'm just going to give you a word, and if you can give me the first thing that comes to mind in relation to your experience abroad. These are really fun. Also very difficult, just one word. If you pick more than one, that's casual, it's fine. So yeah, in relation to your experience. So first one is food.
The food wasn't the best in Ireland.
Ooh.
But I don't know. The food wasn't the best in Ireland.
Okay. Now you have to tell us why, because that's a first. But is it because it's not the cuisine that you like? Is it what is it about it that's underwhelming?
It, I'm pretty sure everyone would agree with me on that. The people who work with me, it's the food is bland, and especially for me as an Asian, it was bland for me. But I never complained because I ate it anyways. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And I mean, that's kind of part of the experience, right? You figure out what you like, what you don't like, and food is inclusive of that.
Oh
Were
yeah.
you able to find any type of different cuisine outside of the Irish culture? So maybe like Asian food, Bangladeshi food, like anything like that within the city of Limerick?
Obviously, like there was like one Italian place and one Chinese place side by side, 3 minutes walk from my house. So it's like you can find everything. There's not that it's not that there's no other cuisines available. I should have mentioned this. One thing I did like was Irish breakfast food. Irish breakfast food is amazing, and the coffee is great, as I've mentioned before. So those two things together did make. I don't usually eat breakfast here, so I would go for breakfast in Ireland almost every day.
Excellent. Things maybe you will adopt now that you are back. Maybe you'll become a breakfast person. Very cool. Transportation.
Transportation is very expensive in Ireland.
Okay.
It's never timely. But apart from that, you don't need a car. You don't necessarily need a car to go to main cities. Um, but because you need to be way older to get a car you need in America. I think you need to be 21 for the license and 24 to rent a car.
Excellent. Yeah, and it sounds like Limerick is kind of a pedestrian city too. You can kind of navigate pretty quickly just by foot. So you might not need transportation. Excellent. Yeah, very good. So yeah, it's a good what's the word I want to use? Health conscious city maybe. If you're walking a lot, you're not constantly taking an Uber or a public bus. Good way to stay fit, guys.
Ireland doesn't have Uber.
Oh, no Uber. Grab, anything, nothing.
They have a taxi. So it's my taxi.
Okay, very cool.
Which is
very good. Excellent. One less app you have to worry about on your phone. No Uber. Cool. We've kind of talked about this already, but locals, if you want to describe them in one word.
Very friendly.
Friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. We love hearing that. Very good. Language.
It's predominantly English.
Yeah, pretty transferable across the board. Favorite city, and it doesn't have to be in Ireland if there's a different city outside of the country that you enjoyed.
It is in Ireland. Donegal is my favorite.
Donegal. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about Donegal?
Galway. Galway is my favorite.
Galway. Okay. What's Galway like?
Galway is amazing. I've been there like 5 times. I went there alone twice because it's not that far from Limerick. It's a couple hours. It's very lively, and there's a lot of young people there, and just people singing outside, dancing outside. It's a lot like I would see in the music video by Ed Sheeran. So it's
an Ed Sheeran music video in the flesh. Very cool. And you're definitely getting use out of that dancing class that you took.
Yes.
The dancing and music class. Excellent. We love when classes, that's the point, right? For those classes to translate to your experience, to be able to use them outside of the classroom setting to kind of continue that experiential learning. So excellent. Landmarks, natural or otherwise.
Landmarks would definitely be Sea League. That was the best place I've ever seen naturally. Yeah.
Excellent. Very good. Architecture.
I think Book of Kells. It's a part of Trinity College in Ireland. So I think one of the oldest libraries there. So it's a library, first of all. And kind of has like a Harry Potter setting. So I think that would be my best architecture. I'm not a big architecture person, so
that's okay. Yeah, it looks very different of that in the US. We can always pretty much count on that in these interviews. Very cool. And so it's Book of Kells, is that what it's called? Okay, we will look that up. Excellent. And then one word to describe your entire experience, if you can. I know that's a tough one.
Oh wow. Life-changing. That's it.
I think we're gonna have to just put that on a wall somewhere. I don't know. It's going to become a trademark because that's what a lot of the alumni ambassadors answer. Life-changing is their answer, which we love, and it is. I mean, at point blank, simply put, it is life-changing. Excellent, Mustafa. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Such a pleasure hearing about your experience and again how it changes the self, but always in a positive way, always for the better. And we love hearing these testaments of you guys just really making the most of these experiences. Do you have any closing words before we say goodbye today?
I would definitely say to people after COVID, if you have the chance to study abroad, definitely go ahead and do it. Like, you will never regret it. I think you'll grow the most, learn the most. If you're going through any tough time in your life, I think studying abroad will help you get over it, because you're going to meet so much newer people, and then they're going to help you go through that. So everything in life, I think study abroad is an answer. At least it was for me. So go ahead and do it. Yeah,
it's you're in this state of resilience, and one of the things that I've seen through the pandemic personally with our alumni ambassadors, whether they have been in the spring 2020 semester and repatriated during the pandemic, or had programs before and they're just unpacking their experience now during the pandemic. It's the essence of time, right, to really make the most of whatever time you're given in whatever place you're in while you're physically there. And then also just this bounty of resilience, right? Like, something hits you and you're just going to try your best to bounce back from it. And it's something that we see always with our alumni team, our alumni ambassadors, anybody that returns from a program, but to really see it again through students that are now unpacking their experience during this time, or did have to repatriate during the pandemic. It's really inspiring. So you guys make our job just the best it can be, and we thank you for your resilience, your bravery, and just for sharing your experiences with us. We love hearing about them.
For asking me questions, I died to answer.
Well, you know what? We're hoping to do more of these in the future, Mustafa, so we will link you in however we possibly can, because it's, again, we love this information. It helps the students, and again, it shows us all why cultural exchange is so important and needs to live on even post-pandemic world. So awesome. Well, thank you for being with us today, and hopefully we will see you very, very soon. Best of luck after graduation. We can't wait to see what unfolds for you.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Always.
And
you're welcome.
have a great day.
You too. Bye, Mustafa.